Let's get to the next game. It is the Steelers at the Browns. So this line opened up Browns -6.5, and it was sitting at 7.5 when I started the picks on Tuesday. And then it went off the board because Mason Rudolph was announced as the starter in this game. And now this line is at 10.5. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, so I kind of like the Steelers here. I just think that they've started to figure things out on in their game against the Colts last week. We saw them finally start to take some deep chances, and that was a big deal for them. And in order to continue to have success in the playoffs, I think they're going to have to run that type of offense. Now, I know without Ben Roethlisberger, it's a little bit more difficult. But hopefully, I'm thinking that Mason Rudolph might have developed a bit on the bench enough to keep this game close. I'm also expecting that the Pittsburgh defense will do their best to get pressure on Baker Mayfield. We've seen him struggle when he's under pressure in the past. I know his offensive line has been much better this year, but TJ Watt's having a huge year. So I'm expecting that if they can get a little pressure on him, the Browns might not be able to outscore the Steelers by that much. So I'm really banking more on the defense than Mason Rudolph here. I could see Cleveland winning this game by double digits in this case, but I could also see Mason Rudolph coming out, playing well and being able to move the ball on offense better than people expecting it and keeping this closer than people are expecting. So I'm going to be on the Steelers here. It's not going to be a huge play, maybe one unit because I don't want to bet heavily on Mason Rudolph. But I think I will go with the Steelers here. I just think that they're still playing for something, and more than anything else, they're playing to be sure that they're confident enough to get some wins in the postseason after a rocky finish to the season.
Are you sure that TJ Watt and all those other guys are going to play though? Like I think there's a chance they might sit, and like even if they play, they might play like a half or something. Because while this game means a little bit for the second or third seed, I think it's more important to have rest going into the playoffs. And remember, there are no fans in the stands, so it's not like these road games in the playoffs are going to have a big advantage. And it's not like the Steelers are a Southern team or a dome team, and they have to go to Buffalo in the second round of the playoffs rather than being at home. Like it's the same weather, like Pittsburgh and Buffalo, really. So I don't think it's an advantage, and I think they'd rather sit their players and make sure they're healthy heading into the playoffs. And so I think there's a decent chance that they won't play. And even if they do play, they might see that Buffalo's up big on the Dolphins, and they just might sit their players anyway. So I think we might get a skeleton crew Steeler team against the Browns that need to win, especially after last week's debacle where they didn't have any receivers and they were missing 2 linemen. If the Browns get the receivers back and their linemen back, I think they should win this game easily, because I just don't really see the Steelers trying. Now, maybe the Steelers play other guys except for Roethlisberger for the entire game. I just don't think they do.
Yeah, so my thought on this, and one of the reasons I don't understand why they're sitting Roethlisberger is they have a chance if they beat the Browns that could knock the Browns out of the playoffs. And if they lose because of how tight the AFC race is, and I would have thought that would have been a good confidence builder. Be like, hey, we beat this pretty good team in our division heading into the playoffs, and we knocked them out. Like kind of get them ready. But I guess you might have a point about the rest thing. I was just assuming they were resting Ben Roethlisberger because he was banged up. I still think that there's a reason for them to play their starters in this one, just to try to beat Cleveland. But I may reassess. If late in the week it's looking like, TJ Watt's only going to play half the game, then I'm probably going to change my tune and go on to the Browns. But for now, I'm just anticipating they're sitting Big Ben to be sure he's ready. But again, if it spreads to more players, then I think your side would definitely be the right take.
Yeah, so something on that is I think that I think there's still a scenario where the Steelers get the second seed. They might still play the Browns in the first round. So I think that would be pretty bad if they do that. So I don't know. Yeah, I just looked at the playoff machine, like where you're talking. So if the Steelers win this game, if the Titans lose, which we'll talk about later, and the Dolphins beat the Bills, the Steelers would host the Browns in the first round of the playoffs. So giving the Browns like some information, like even if Roethlisberger doesn't play, like giving them like any sort of tape, I think that could be pretty detrimental too. So I think that might be another reason why Roethlisberger is sitting.
It's a good point. I'm going to have to reassess on this game later in the week, because if that is the case, then it would take precedent to just let the Browns kind of beat them and not have to face them in that first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get more and more news as the week goes on. Like maybe we'll get news that like Deontay Johnson and TJ Watt will sit. So we'll see.